And guess who's not coping? Guess who's bitter and twisted? Guess who has decided to brief to the world? And let me just tell you, I do not believe this for a single second. We didn't watch. We didn't want anything to do with this. Yeah, that's right. The Montecito moaners. Breaking today, the British monarchy fights back. After months of negative headlines and suggestions that it's all over, after months of appalling behaviour by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who insist that they didn't watch the King's historic speeches last night, the Prince and Princess of Wales have shown us the future, celebrating 15 years of marriage by releasing a beautiful new image of their pitch-perfect family on that wedding anniversary. And trust me, after seeing Prince William at an RAF base yesterday as well, it is very, very clear that the British royal family remains in a strong place for the future. According to Taz, royal YouTube sensation will be with us today. She has posted on this same levels of cuteness as sleeping elephants. What a wonderful family photograph. Love how affectionate they all are together. And that's real family, isn't it? That's true family. I mean, let's just take a look at this image, actually, because it is so lovely what you see. And by the way, this was taken by one of their favoured photographers at a family holiday just a few weeks ago. And you see that complete natural interaction between the children. Catherine, pretty much recovered now, totally happy. And George, a little bit more serious there, as he is maybe because of what he is facing in his future. And of course, the doggies. You can't leave the doggies out. And this image was released after King Charles received such positive feedback, especially, I think, for his speech at the state dinner, which was just so funny as much as anything else. And guess who's not coping? Guess who's bitter and twisted? Guess who has decided to brief to the world? And let me just tell you, I do not believe this for a single second. We didn't watch. We didn't want anything to do with this. Yeah, that's right. The Montecito moaners. Look at this new revelation just out from Rob Shooter, former royal courtier turned gossip columnist, who says that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle did not watch King Charles's speech and are no longer pretending otherwise. Tash, I'm sorry. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. It's just like when Harry says, oh, I don't read any of the media, or when Meghan Markle says, I never look at what people are saying on X. They watched the speech. Sure, they're sending people out to brief saying we didn't. But this has got to hurt, Tash, because if you compare the love on both sides of the Atlantic to the royal family today as a result of the King's state visit, which remember is only halfway through, and especially this new picture release from the Prince and Princess of Wales, it's got to hurt.
Yeah, it has got to hurt, but it's the harsh reality of it. But the fact that they felt the need to even say we didn't watch it, no one cares. No one cares. The King doesn't care. The public don't care. No one cares whether you did watch it or you didn't watch it. But the point is, the fact that they still had to come forward and say something shows that they do care. Kept their mouth shut and not said anything, then maybe it's more believable. But the fact is that they wanted people to know that they didn't watch it, means they still wanted the people to know that they exist, with a mention alongside the King. They are so predictable, but there's just no way anyone's going to believe. We're so done, as they're literally telling the world that they're still working royals, they're back to using their full titles, their HRHs. We're so done, we're moving on with our life. Those two are incapable of moving on.
Tash, can we just speak about the Wales and this 15th anniversary of the wedding? Because don't you think this was just such a lovely moment to show the world, in 15 years, we've come through so much, so many rumours, so much attempt for total destruction, health battles, personal battles, royal battles, brotherly battles, family battles, media battles. But actually what's important is he is saying to the world just 24 hours after Charles's address, don't worry, The royal family is in good hands. And I think the timing of
Yeah.
this picture, Tash, was so lovely because, of course, people have absolutely adored seeing Charles and Camilla together in Washington, D.C., today in
Oh,
New
yeah,
York.
big hit.
But at the
Big hit.
same time, Tash, I do think there is a little bit of feeling at the moment, a little bit of consternation that the royal family seems a little bit old. Remember when that official picture of the working royals was put out last week as well? That was the criticism. Well, there's nothing old about this picture. This
No.
new picture of William and Catherine with their family is very much saying, don't worry, things are going to keep going strong because we are a united family. And I love the fact that they put this out on the wedding anniversary. But what do you know about this photo, Tash? It very much continues a trend, I guess, of them wanting to show the world their private times in nature as a family.
I think it's just sharing this private side of their life. They've done everything that they can to protect the children. I would say that they've kept their children away from the public more than what Harry and William were at times. I think that they have done so much more to give them more of a private upbringing. So when they share these little moments, it's not like the public are just seeing formal photographs of the children all dressed up, looking prim and proper. These are private family moments. So they're saying, we're not excluding you from our life. We're not excluding you from our world. This is an intimate moment. This is our family. They still understand the importance that the public needs to bond with them. The public needs to go, at the baby photos and has an interest, which we have done because they've shared so much with us. But again, at the same time, they share something that is an intimate family moment, but it was taken with the children not being pushed out in front of the world cameras, not being forced to perform, not being served up on a silver platter, as one person said. And I think it's a perfect way to just share these intimate moments, also still mixing in the duty. We're seeing a lot more of the children with certain public facing roles. There was quite a big moment for I think it was VJ Day, where it was Prince George went solo with the veterans, and then we saw him also with his mum, because Prince William, I think he was still on his way back from the Earthshot Prize in Brazil, and he was with his mum at the Remembrance Festival. And then we see Charlotte and George at the tennis and at the football, and they are getting a slow, steady introduction, but it's not all like a prim and proper presentation. You just get to see a different side to the family. You get to see them as a real normal family, and I think that's something that the public bonds with.
And the picture was taken by Matt Porteous in Cornwall. He is the Jersey-based photographer, Tash, who has a close relationship with the family. And I think you would have to, wouldn't you, to sort of
To have the children
capture
relax.
images like this. Exactly.
Yeah, the children are completely relaxed, the same that they were with, I think it's Millie Pilkington, she's another one. The kids relax, so they obviously have them in their lives at times, perhaps more as their parents' friends than just like an informal official photographer that comes in. The kids see them as a little bit of past the furniture. Those kids are completely relaxed, like the person isn't even there. So I think that's really sweet. And again, that's something that's beautiful that is conveyed with these intimate moments with with the kids, with the family. You get to see their personality rather than kids trying to suck in their tummies and push their shoulders back and things like we all had to do for the school photographs. And I think they're really special, and I'm really, really grateful, despite all of the abuse that Catherine's been through, especially after that Mother's Day photograph, that they still share these type of moments with us.
Exactly,
And
because there was such a fear that actually she might just say, oh no, I'm not going to do
and I
that
wouldn't blame
again,
her. I
and
wouldn't have
run
blamed
away.
her.
But she hasn't done that, which is
No.
great.
Now that wording alone tells you a lot. Fight back. Snub. Those are strong terms. So the real question is, what actually happened here, and is this a genuine shift in how the royal family is handling Harry and Meghan, or just another media narrative building momentum? Let's start with the so-called snub, because that's the trigger for everything else in this story. In royal coverage, a snub can mean a lot of things. It could be declining an invitation, skipping an event, or making a decision that creates distance. But the key thing is how it's interpreted. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle make a move like that, it's rarely treated as neutral. It's framed as intentional, as a message, as something symbolic. And that's exactly what's happening here. Because once it's framed as a snub, the next step is inevitable. How does the royal family respond? Now this is where the language gets interesting. A fight back doesn't mean King Charles or Prince William are holding press conferences or firing back directly. That's not how the monarchy operates. A royal fight back is usually much more subtle. It's about public appearances, carefully timed messaging, reinforcing unity, shifting the narrative without directly engaging in conflict. So when this video says William and Charles are responding, what it really means is that they're managing the situation in a way that protects the institution. And that's a key distinction. Because while Harry and Meghan tend to communicate through interviews, documentaries, and personal storytelling, the royal family plays a much longer, quieter game. Let's talk about Prince William because he's central to this fight back idea. William is consistently positioned as the opposite of Harry in media coverage. Where Harry is seen as outspoken and emotional, William is presented as controlled, duty-focused, and forward-looking. And that contrast is doing a lot of work here. Because every time Harry and Meghan make a move that's seen as distancing or critical, William's role becomes clearer. He represents stability. Not reaction. Not retaliation. Stability. And whether that's completely accurate or not, it's a narrative that resonates with a lot of people.
Okay, Tash, so in the early hours of the morning UK time, King Charles followed up his emotional address to Congress with a much more personal and funny speech at the White House. This was for the state dinner attended by the great and the good. There was Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos and Tim Cook, the Apple CEO, a smattering of media personalities, a smattering of politicians, of course. And I actually much preferred, I'm going to be honest with you, I much preferred this speech to the more formal and hyper-political speech to Congress earlier in the day. But he did start, Tash, very seriously by referring to the latest assassination attempt on the president. He then also praised Donald Trump directly, and this was pretty special because a lot of people said that the speech at Congress, including me, was quite anti-Trump in a lot of ways. But this was the moment where he could really enforce that personal relationship by invoking Trump's mother, who you'll remember the president had said in a really characteristically hilarious moment, had a crush on the then Prince Charles. Oh, goodness me. It was lovely the way that he actually spoke a lot about big figures from the past. And I think it's important sometimes that he links himself to the likes of Queen Elizabeth II, to King George, to the Queen Mother, to Winston Churchill. And then was the piece de resistance. And I have to admit, I actually got a bit emotional at this moment because I just think it showed that Charles has the emotional intelligence in terms of how to deal with Donald Trump, even though we know from Tina Brown that deep down he has some type of visceral personal hatred towards Trump. Their politics is certainly different. But the gift that he presented him was so special, so unique, and I genuinely think will go some way to helping to resolve the current splits that are there politically between the UK and the US. I just love this. Watch Donald Trump's reaction here. He's so overwhelmed, he actually stands up. Charles, you aced this moment. Oh, Tash, I got goosebumps. It was honestly, for me, the favorite moment from the visit so far. What did you think of King Charles's speech at the state dinner?
I mean, I loved all of it. That was a particularly special moment, though. I think of Trump a bit like a leprechaun. He loves gold. I mean, he does
Oh,
everything
yes.
gold. You only have to look at the plates at the at the banquet. You know, he is a man that adores gold. But I mean, what an incredible gift! And I think he's going to love the fact that it was part of a submarine that sunk several other Japanese, torpedoed a few other Japanese submarines in World War II. I mean, what a piece of history to have. And of course, with his name on it, a little bit of narcissism goes a long way with Trump. So, I mean, I'm sure that he'll have that pride of place at home. Now, I did really like his nod, the King's nod to Melania at the beginning, the clip that you showed to do with the recent shooting attempt with the security services, thanking them for their quick intervention before it went worse. And I think that Melania probably could do with a boost like that publicly. It was quite a big statement from the king to do that in front of all of the world's media, especially because there's been some really cruel things, like Jimmy Kimmel recently making jokes about Melania, potentially becoming a widow. And I found it a little bit below the belt. So to see the king give Melania public support like that, I think that was a really, really sweet touch. As for the rest of it, I mean, his sense of humor is on fire with these speeches. The jokes that he's made have been brilliant. He's timed them perfectly. And he just has this glow in his eye. The little smile appears, this little sparkle appears, and you see a really playful side to King Charles. And I think that has gone a long way as well, not just with Americans. I think this trip has been very successful with putting the UK in Americans' hearts in a positive way. And Lord alone knows we could do with that at the moment. And then also, I think with Brits, I mean, I have been reading a lot of people, their favorability of the king has gone up in their estimations by the way that he has handled this tour. So I think that it's been very, very successful. And I personally enjoyed both of the speeches.
Yeah, and much needed too.
Yes.
For the king, given that he had been forced into a lot of silence, which I personally disagreed with after the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. We're finally seeing him, we're finally hearing him. And of course, I revealed yesterday, Tash, that Charles's doctors had stopped his cancer treatment and had worked on building him up to be physically fit for this trip. And I will say I have been incredibly impressed by the king's stamina. This is a guy who's battling very, very serious cancer, and he has been absolutely nonstop and hasn't put a foot wrong and has looked vigorous. Then we get to Trump's speech, and Tash, there was one controversial moment, but Trump probably didn't go too far here, actually, but he did suggest that King Charles agrees with him in regards to Iran, even though the palace and the UK government have tried to clarify, well, of course, this is what the government position is. They never wanted Iran to have nuclear weapons. But I love it when Trump goes off script. Personally, I know not everyone agrees, but
just
watch
honesty.
This. Yeah, exactly.
He's just honest.
So I need you to do something for me right now. It is free. It is easy. It is simple. Just hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's because over 50% of you watching this video haven't done that yet. And it is the best way to support Outspoken. Now, Tash, I know loads of traditionalists don't like the way that Trump goes off script. I do. I love the fact that we got that insight into what the visit to Windsor Castle was like, what Trump and King Charles spoke about behind the scenes. Personally, I thought both speeches at the state dinner were excellent.
Yeah, I mean, the bit about Iran, I mean, I don't think there's many people out there in the world, unless you support Iran, that you're going to say, yeah, I think there'll be great people to get nukes. Yeah, definitely. There's no one out there. But the thing is, the king did have private conversations, the same as Queen Elizabeth did. But most people know that you put a filter in place and you don't repeat that because it can be used by others for, various different political means, or the media can just run away with it. And I think sometimes with Trump, I do find it funny that he doesn't have that filter in place and he just says it. I'd imagine that the King Charles probably did have a conversation with him saying, no, that's a terrible idea. And he just lets it fly. He just doesn't have that moment where he thinks, I shouldn't be saying this, or he just simply doesn't care. But
a bit of both, I think. A bit of both.
Yeah.
And there's something so childlike about it. But what you absolutely see is the respect for the king and the queen.
Oh,
because I had one other little favorite moment that I wanted to show you, Tash. It's just a brief moment, but again, I think it's so cute. It's when Trump and Melania are waving the king and the queen goodbye. So this was after the bilateral meeting at the White House before the address to Congress yesterday. And Trump is asked a question about it after giving us a little wave, and he just can't resist but engage about his love for the king. Watch.
Mr. President, what did you talk about? How was your visit with the king, sir?
Just great, Tash. I do feel like we're living a bit of history with this state visit.
Yeah, it has been. I think it's been brilliant. I'm currently working on a video about it. There's just so much footage that's come out, so many incredible photos, so many historical photos, iconic photos, and I think it's gone better than what other people thought it would. I think
Well,
it's gone
I
better.
think it's gone better than what I thought
And it's
it
gone
would.
better than what the media want to allow as well,
Yeah,
mainstream
indeed.
media.
Indeed.
Then there's King Charles, who's in a more complicated position. He's not just a public figure, he's also Harry's father. So every decision he makes operates on two levels: personal, institutional. And what this video is suggesting is that Charles is now leaning more toward the institutional side, prioritizing the monarchy over any ongoing personal tensions. That doesn't necessarily mean a dramatic confrontation. In fact, it's usually the opposite. It means controlled distance. Now let's come back to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, because their role in this dynamic is just as important. Every action they take, whether it's attending something, not attending something, making a statement, or staying silent, gets interpreted through the lens of their past decisions. And that's the reality of where things stand now. Because this isn't happening in isolation. This comes after the Oprah interview, the Netflix documentary, Harry's memoir Spare, all of which shaped how the public views their relationship with the royal family. So when something is labeled as snub, it's not just about that one moment. It's layered on top of everything that came before it. And that's why reactions feel stronger than they might otherwise. Another thing worth paying attention to is how much of this is interpretation versus confirmation. So when we hear fight back, we have to ask, is this a direct response, or is it a way of describing what looks like a response? Because sometimes what's being presented as strategy is actually just normal royal behavior being reinterpreted through a dramatic lens. Public appearances, speeches, engagements, these are things the royal family does anyway. But in moments like this, they get reframed as deliberate countermoves. That doesn't mean there's no tension. Clearly there is. But it does mean we should be careful about assuming every action is part of a coordinated fight back. Now let's talk about the bigger picture. Because this isn't just about one event or one decision. This is about two very different approaches to public life. On one side, you have Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who have chosen to tell their story directly, publicly, and in detail. On the other side, you have the royal family, especially William and Charles, who rely on restraint, consistency, and long-term image management. And those two approaches don't just clash, they create completely different narratives. So when we hear phrases like shock snub and royal fight back, what we're really seeing is a narrative being built around that clash. It's not just about what happened. It's about how it's being interpreted, framed, and presented to the public. And that brings us to the real question. Is this actually a turning point? Is the royal family becoming more assertive in how they respond to Harry and Meghan? Or is this just another cycle in a long-running story where every move gets amplified into something bigger? But whether this is a fight back, or just the appearance of one, depends on how you read the situation. At the end of the day, this isn't just about Prince William, King Charles, Prince Harry, or Meghan Markle. It's about how narratives are built, and how quickly they can take shape when there's already a history behind them.